The ship of Theseus. A legendary question. Alongside the chicken and the egg, the perfect thought trap. You know, if you blast out both sides of a ship with cannons, let it sink to the seabed with both crew and captain, and then put another boat in the water. Fill it with some people you found to make it look like a proper ship. Give it a captain you pulled out of nowhere. Maybe he worked for security. And slap the label Theseus on the side. Is it the same boat? Just a little thought experiment, no particular reason. It's a well-known fact that the gaming industry has been on a long and arduous decline in quality, tolerability, and expectation over the last decade, I'd say. And a lot more qualified and practiced people have talked about it before me, and far more will after. But, I have freedom of speech, I have a microphone, and I have opinions, so here we are. Why do they insist on choosing every wrong path, taking inspiration from downfall and using it to go forward into yet another? Taking everything known to be good and casting it aside to ruin everything you were originally presented with. What? You got a humiliation kink? That's bad for business. Maybe get a new line of work. You'll be happier. Like with music, there are still absolute bangers that come out against the tides and surpass expectation to give us a little hope along the way. These games are few and far between and should be treasured and cared for like precious royalty that will one day save the world from our inevitable downfall. But, unlike music, we can't go back and have a moment of nostalgia when we revisit it. And getting excited over even your favorite studios is usually a letdown. You don't own games. They don't even own themselves. You log into your account, and often they're not supported, or they were completely removed from your library with nary a warning. Or you have to go through every loophole, every hoop to try to get the game to even work because of some patch. Get used to not owning your games, they tell us. The art of the physical copy is lost on these people as well in the name of greed. And now, even when you do pay extra for a physical copy, it's not a physical copy, but a box that has a code in it. It's the world's biggest prank. Want to play a game you already bought? Wrong! Pay more. Nintendo, what are you doing? And what amount of huffing did it take you to get to the point that you thought it was a good idea? Clue us in so that we can get on the same level of delusion. Are we gonna have to start paying $1 every time we want to throw a shell at our opponents? Every time we throw a bomb at a bokoblin, we have to whip out our credit cards? Were you inspired by John?
We see you over there. You're no better, by the way.
You were always stupid. And I always chalked it up to you being old-fashioned, your online services being what they were, and habits of suing everything that even sneezed in your general direction were loosely dismissed as such. But now, you're just crossing from boomer brain into greedy troglodyte paint-huffing piggy banks. How you manage to move backwards on the monkey evolution chart, I will never understand. We can all tell you don't know what you're talking about either. There wasn't a single slur or insult in that demo of your Discord ripoff service. The whole reason I started on this was because of Dragon Age, and witnessing the utter necromancy of this franchise put me in kind of a state. But even from then, it became my tirade because so many things have happened since it released, and I think I'm losing my mind. With your they failures and pretend representation wars being lost left and right, the protests built upon falsehoods and carried and represented by the actual farts of society, wars fought between the same parties, good intentions once again being used for nefarious, monetary purposes. The talking points keep going on into a list so long that Santa Claus wouldn't be able to look over it in a year. The naughty list, inhabited by the loud and stupid, grows and valiantly gives what they earn, but when they get cold, they keep it to cook up more stupid to make it into everyone else's problem.
Stupid is, stupid does, Mrs. Blue.
And the secret is that if you let stupid be, it becomes stupid was. Unfortunately, no one let it be, and they kept listening and catering to what stupid does, and decided to let it become a foundation for their creations in the entertainment industry. I cannot fathom having success handed to me on a silver platter and then taking that and shooting it like you're Atticus killing Tim to help the town. Problem is, Atticus is just Blizzard Activision, the town is no one, and Tim is Overwatch, who was perfectly healthy and happy until shot in the head for no reason. Sure, make promises and then refuse to follow up on them. And then, when that fails for some reason, there's no need to worry. But because while you were parading the desecrated corpse of your game around, someone else might take the opportunity to make something that can compete with that game and give people a new gateway into the genre. Two groups decide to do this. One decides to go the route of superheroes, using brain cells and nostalgia to create something that looks lovely, seeking to improve what was already familiar to their target audience, taking what was good from the original and making it better in their own. They hit it out of the park. The other group gave the writers label makers to write on and design on, and more time and money than functioning brain cell to work with. I'm not sure if they copied anything from the original, but they certainly didn't improve on it, and they proceeded to make the laughingstock of the gaming industry that is not only ugly, but also unbelievably bad. So bad, they had to shut it down in under 2 weeks.
Double kill.
Only one of these groups are confused about why and how this all went down, and somehow, it's not the superheroes.
Triple kill.
And then, they go around saying that these games are doing so well and expect you to not look into it. Expect you to forget that Google exists and a player base is published to the general public, that rating systems work, telling us that the game is super good, 10 out of 10, say the critics, and then suddenly, when everyone is actually playing it, they will never trust you again because you were lying through your teeth and paying off others to also lie through their teeth. The game sucks, and so do you. So you lie again and tell everyone that you have so many players that you can't even count, and people will just look it up again.
Bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Guess what? It didn't work. And what is this preachy mentality that these games have taken on? It's one thing to show perseverance and friendship or whatever in a story. Sure. The importance of friendship, the magic of love, that's great. But sitting for hours in a pseudo-therapy session about someone's personal problems is not the way to make your audience feel included.
You know, Amy, anytime someone calls attention to the breaking of gender rules, it ultimately undermines the concept of gender equality by implying that this is an exception and not the status quo.
BioWare as a whole never had to do this before. Why does it feel a need to do it now? Is it because it's a mainstream issue that you decided to pretend is something that needs to be addressed in every facet of entertainment to the point where you can't even buy a car without looking like an incessant freak? Also, you can have politics in stories, no problem. Just stop being stupid about it. And for the love of all that matters, make it make sense. It worked in Call of Duty because the game is about wars that started on politics, I'm pretty sure. It worked in Skyrim because getting these factions of people who were fighting to work together for a common goal was also really good and interesting. Star Wars did it. We didn't like Han Solo because of his political beliefs. He was fun and grew as a character. It worked in BioShock because it was a basis for the entire setting of all the games. And look, I know not all games are made for everyone. That's the point. I love me a good RPG. I'm not much for FPS. And Souls-like games are my bread and butter. My sister and brother love FPS games, and my brother hates Souls-like games with the passion of 1,000 burning suns. He tells me every time I see him. I've seen several videos listed where all they do is dig a hole.
Is this what YouTube content has fallen down to? Is this the level we're at now?
And people love it. I've also seen games that are only good if the people you play them with or watch play them are way funnier than you. Not to mention that those senses of humor are all so vastly different that it creates a completely different experience for everyone. I watched both Game Grumps and Markiplier play a game about digging a hole. They were extremely different experiences.
Dude, did you hear that? I just used my jetpack.
Did you?
Yeah.
How was it?
It was cool. Watch this.
Whoa!
Isn't that freaking crazy? All right, well, we're finishing this game.
I gotta jump. Ugh. Can't believe they're making me jump. Well, whatever. At least it's jump and not a stupid jetpack. Man, who would get excited about a jetpack? Not me.
And that's all well and good, because variety is the spice of life, and we can all get along in our box of chocolates. But it seems that, again, that general knowledge was lost somewhere. These folk sure listen to the critics. They just listen to the wrong ones. If they had listened to history, they would realize that a game is not judged by the label of the game, but by the content of its playthrough. The characters, the mechanics, the story. Graphics are fine and good, but it isn't what makes a game successful or likable, and should never be what you're leaning or riding on for success. I say this as a character design artist, might I add. It's because of this we keep getting sequels to games or adaptations of games that suck the life out of its own source material and their audience, just because they forgot that the best way to sell a game is to make a good game.
It's stupidly simple, but somehow it keeps on getting lost. Studio made their game because they wanted to make a game that they wanted to play themselves. They created it because it hadn't been created before.
How is it that we have things like Resident Evil 2, 3, and 4 remakes, Dead Space remakes, and Oblivion remakes that introduce like an entire new era of the name to new audiences while also making the old audience happy, and then we simultaneously get absolute garbage like Dragon Age Veilguard or Assassin's Creed Shadows and Mirage and Valhalla?
You can actually pinpoint the second when his heart rips in half.
That ruin any sort of majesty or respect they might have once held in a series. What's the excuse? Many have done so much more with fractions of so much less, and have done better than whatever the heck you are doing now. I'm so sick of holding games to this standard of, it's playable, and calling it a masterpiece because of it. Huh? What do you mean I shouldn't expect a game to be finished when it first comes out? Especially with the prices! What, guess I shouldn't expect my food to be cooked when it's delivered to my table? I'll just go ahead and leave a 900% tip while I'm at it. Can you imagine? Weird. Innovation has always come from hard work and branching out from what you have. I'm not precisely sure what alpha male tutorial guru psychopath taught otherwise, or why on earth it took over as an expectation, but now that it's taken over, we get games with copy-paste codes, and they're surprised when we aren't impressed. Look, it has explosive barrels! Okay, Avowed, but Speed Rumbler had that in 1986. The weather changes, says Assassin's Creed Shadows. Okay, but Minecraft does that, and has done that. These are first-person shooting games! Doom started that in 1993. But look, you can do crimes and nothing will happen. Okay, and Curious George did that his whole dang life starting in 1941. Any iteration of thing you're advertising has already been done and done better. In fact, I'm betting that's it. Curious George had too much of an influence on everyone, and now they're so numerous that the wary Yellow Hat Men cannot keep up. Also, what happened to strategy? We've had that since Mancala, when we played it in the dirt. What happened to that? What do you mean, my companions can't die in battle? That's like a staple of the strategy in Dragon Age. It's like they believe all audiences to be so brain-dead that the game should play itself for them, and just let them hold the controller like a toddler who's playing Black Ops with their older brother, who's doing his best to be nice on the live chat because, you know, baby's in the room. I know I've said that what a game looks like is not what should sell a game, because that only takes you so far, and I'm absolutely correct. We've seen it 1,000 times, but I definitely didn't say that you should purposefully make every character as unappealing as you can just because you are. Someone call the Doomslayer. I think we have another invasion. Even characters who were established before are being rendered into some of the worst looking things I've seen. No one's impressed.
My God, he's bald. Very bald. Still working the cash register, eh, Squiddy?
And maybe I'm harshing on this a little more than the average person because of my profession. But look, what did you do to the Qunari? They're dragon people, not cute little tieflings. Did someone sneeze and mix elven designs with the literal dragon people somehow? Look at Iron Bull. Look at Sten. Look at the Arashok. They wouldn't be caught dead being this lame. And remember when actions had consequences? Or characters mattered? Or weren't the worst thing you had to put up with in a day, even to the point that when you worked a 12-hour shift at work with some of the stupidest people you are forced to call clients, or the talent manager you have to deal with that has no talent or brains but is in charge of how it's run in the company, is better? I'm starting to see a pattern, actually, I think. But the reason that's preferable is I'm getting paid to be there. With Dragon Age, where I have to deal with the same amount of stupid people, I paid to be there. $70! It's some sort of corporate fear as well in making anyone truly bad or villainous or interesting. And if females aren't all girl bosses and the men aren't all bowing to said girl bosses or villainized, it won't get past their weird screening system that they have going on. I think somewhere along the line, Karens who said all the time that if you read a book about murder, that means you will be a murderer, and that you'll only be happy if you're single, took over and got jobs in gaming studios. And they're teaming up with people who would sell you body positivity shampoos and lotions while simultaneously selling you vast amounts of junk food on the side. Also, they think everyone is so dumb that a story can't have, well, anything. And if there is any point to be made, it's repeated so much that we zone out for 40 minutes, but we don't have to worry because when we come back, they're still talking about the same thing. It's almost like if you hire stupid people, you get stupid results. Just like I don't want an easy mode in Soulsborne games, I'm also not going to tell someone they're wrong for disliking Soulsborne games for not having an easy mode. I don't like puzzle games because they annoy me, but I will not tell you that you're wrong for liking puzzle games. I get violent nausea if I play games that have a top-down angle, like WoW or Hades, which is a shame. But if you enjoy them, that's great. Have at it. But if I was on a team that was making those games, I wouldn't change it to fit me. I also would probably have a lot of Dramamine on me at all times. Dragon Age has always been a very violent fantasy setting with brutal choices to make along the way and equally brutal battle. And Veilguard is not a Dragon Age game. Someone changed it to fit their own prerogative, and it no longer is what it advertised itself to be. Or, well, what it was supposed to be. The advertisements were also awful. Therein is the problem, though. If you don't like something about a game, congrats! Go play something else. You have a myriad of options. Endless options. Millions of options! We're at a point where better stories, better gameplay, intrigue, dialogue, characters, all of that are more easily found if you head on over to literal gacha games. Or even better, you go to games made by small studios or even one guy who proceeded to blast AAA games off the charts in its success. And it's well earned. We've reached the point where companies are so threatened by the little guys that threats of lawsuits are able to pop up like Freddy Fazbear. Check the vents. Shoot, it's Nintendo. It's become a regular pattern to have good things that are taken up by these ladder-climbing leeches. They smear the ashes of what you love on their faces and pretend that they are what they've destroyed. It's happened with movies, adaptations, TV shows, games. There's a sort of fatigue I see settling over general audiences, which in turn I think is helping indie developers and creators finally get a light that has long been hidden from them. It's kind of a beautiful thing in a way. It's just a shame that it comes at the cost of things that were once great and inspired people who were going into the industry. I certainly didn't go into my degree hoping to make the next Concord, and I bet quite a few of the people on that team who worked on Concord didn't either. But those who run things are determined to ruin their own product. So the Ship of Theseus. It's a genuinely good thought exercise, but in this case it's not the Ship of Theseus. It's more like the Costa Concordia, filling a boat with people who can't communicate or focus on whatever is going on around them because they're distracted by their own priorities, is how you get sunken ships. In the case of replacing things one at a time, there's a chance for the new pieces to find their place and grow accustomed to their roles before any other pieces somewhere else are fixed. With studios now, they don't really have a chance to do that. mass layoffs, walkouts, complete shutdowns, and the competent being completely drowned out by the ones who don't have experience enough to know what works and what won't, is killing established titles one by one. It'll only be a matter of time before none of them have anything of worth to give, if we aren't already there. And it's a shame. I guess all we can do is let the monkeys run and destroy everything. It's all they're really good at. Except you, bud. I love you.